When the Marquis's residence took me back, I was already a 20-year-old young woman. Girls my age had become mothers, yet I was still unmarried. Only after entering the Marquis's residence did I learn that I had an arranged engagement made before I was even born, but the fake heiress raised in the Marquis's household had already married into that family. She and the young Marquis were deeply in love and had a son and a daughter, a tale of perfect harmony in the capital. When facing me, guilt overwhelmed her. She cried so hard she couldn't speak. Mother held her in her arms with heartache and comforted her. The heir apparent promised her they would be a devoted couple for life. I remained calm and composed, putting on an air of indifference, but inside my sleeve, my fingertips clenched tightly at the hem of my clothes, and the pain was piercing. During a heart-to-heart talk at night, my mother held my hand and sighed. She urged me to think positively, since things were already settled. Now she added that she would introduce me to an even better match, and that she had already looked over several noble young lords. I stared at the osmanthus tree in the courtyard, its fragrance drifting far away, and found myself missing the pigs at home that no one was tending. I told my mother, "Mother, I don't want to get married. Please let me go back home." The truth of my background was revealed. It had all been an accident. The Marquis's wife went to a temple in Qingju to fulfill a vow. But on the way they were caught in a heavy rain. She stopped to rest in a pavilion, and as I carried 2 bundles of pig fodder past, she looked at me and was briefly lost in thought. The reason was simple. I looked about 80% like she had in her youth. She quickly grew suspicious. So she sent people to investigate in secret, only to learn that I truly was her biological daughter. 20 years ago, when the Marquis was facing peril on all sides in court, she came to Qingju to take refuge while heavily pregnant, bringing her son with her. That day, there was also a heavy rain. They passed by a ruined temple and waited for the rain to stop. Unexpectedly, Madame went into labor that day and gave birth in the ruined temple at the same time as a peasant woman. Feeling pity for the woman, who was all alone and crying miserably, Madame sent the midwife over to help and even shared part of the swaddling cloth. Everything was in chaos that day, with the lights out and darkness all around. By the time daylight broke, the midwife looked at the 2 children, both wrapped in fine brocade, and for a moment could not tell them apart. In her panic, she had randomly taken a child to give to the madam. 20 years later, the midwife was already old and had little time left. Asked this question, she realized that she had indeed taken the wrong baby that day. Overcome with guilt, she told the truth, and that very night she breathed her last. The midwife had passed away, and the Madam's overwhelming grief and anger had nowhere to vent. She could only hold me in her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Jeanne, come back to the capital with Mother. Mother will make it up to you." I stood in the dilapidated farmhouse courtyard, blankly staring at a group of servants dressed in splendid clothes, not knowing how to react. Fortunately, my adoptive parents treated me very well. Although life was hard, they had all these years believed I was their biological daughter. So while they were alive, they did not let me suffer too much. Unfortunately, they both passed away one after another when I was 13. As a matter of course, I followed Madame back to the capital. She introduced my identity, and the people of the Marquis's residence were half believing and half doubting. Every close relative and I underwent a blood test to confirm kinship. The blood merged thus. My father's eyes turned red, and my brother kept sighing. Guomingi, the Marquis's daughter who had taken my place, held my hand and, after a long choking silence, said through tears, "I'm sorry for occupying your life for 20 years. My mind, however, drifted away, looking at her face, which was both like my foster father's and my foster mother's. I froze. Her palm was tender, while mine was rough and dark. For a moment, I felt deeply ashamed. Feeling awkward, I withdrew my hand. She froze, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. Mother held her and comforted her. "Yeah, this isn't your fault. It was the midwife's fault. You are innocent." Father also comforted her. "You are pregnant and should not let your emotions harm your health. Yeah, you need to think more positively." My brother also said, "Yes, if Mother doesn't go to Qingju this time, you will always be the only young lady of the Marquis's household." I stood alone in place, feeling deeply embarrassed. It was as if I were the one who had ruined this happy family. I understood what they meant. the living are all innocent, so my 20 years can be summed up in just 8 words: toyed with by fate, helpless and resigned. There was no one else to blame, only myself for not having that kind of fate. Later, the heir apparent from the Duke's mansion whom Guomingyi had married also came. He was refined and handsome, even more striking than the most famed young nobleman I had ever seen in Qingju. He held Guomingyi in his arms. The two of them were like a perfect match of talent and beauty, as though a loving couple stepping out of a storybook. Only his gaze at me carried a trace of disgust. He said to me, "Though I entered into a marriage contract with you, the one I will marry is Mingyi. I respect her and cherish her. The twists of fate are not her fault. The Duke's manner is her support, and if you cannot let this go, then you will only bring suffering upon yourself. If you can let it go, I will make it up to you." He held Guomingyi in his arms and left. My mother held my hand and sighed. A Zhao and Yi have grown up together. As for this match, it still depends on whether the two of them truly like each other. Forcing it is useless. I withdrew my hand from hers and said quietly, "Mother, I never wanted to force anything." She said, "That's best. I know you're a sensible child." I settled down in the Marquis's residence. I changed into clothes I had never dared to look at for long before, and put on silk shoes made of brocade. Mother brought me the best facial cream and perfume balm. She told me that a woman must take good care of her skin and not be exposed to wind and sun. Everything in the Marquis's residence was very good, but at night, lying on the soft and spacious bed, I could never fall asleep. My mother came to talk to me again that night, excitedly telling me that she had set her sights on a fine young gentleman. As I listened, gazing at the osmanthus tree in the courtyard, its fragrance drifting far away, I suddenly found myself missing the few pigs at home that no one was looking after. I said to my mother, "Mother, I don't want to get married. Please let me go home, too." Mother did not agree. She told me, "Those few livestock aren't worth much silver." When we left Qingju, I gave them to the neighbors. I was still somewhat hesitant. Mother added, "If you miss them so much, I'll have someone bring those pigs back to the capital so you can take good care of them. She has already done enough well. If I keep making trouble, I'll just seem unreasonable." She asked me, "Jeanne, don't you like life in the Marquis's residence?" I shook my head gently. "It's not that I don't like it. Life in the Marquis's residence is much better than raising pigs and planting rice as before." The maids in the Marquis's residence also had the literary talent of the young ladies from the county town. In their spare moments, they would read storybooks. I was curious too, but I couldn't understand the characters, and they consoled me, saying that not being able to read was nothing important. But then I overheard them praising her in private. "Miss Mingyi is still the most remarkable. She can compose poetry and is agreeable. Unlike this one, she can barely recognize a few characters yet still gets to be a young lady. Even I'm not as good as her." I also always remember that when Mother brought me the face cream, the old nanny asked in a low voice, "Madam, what about Miss Mingyi?" Mother said, "I've already had someone send her a jar of jade moisturizing balm. Even the imperial consort in the palace is only allowed to keep one box. If not for my cousin, the Empress, how could I have gotten it? Such a precious thing. Of course it should go to Mingyi." Everything in the Marquis's residence was very good, but I couldn't explain why it always felt oppressively stifling, as if I could hardly breathe. I truly had little education, and could not even put into words why I felt so upset seeing me like this. My mother sighed in frustration. "All right, the one I'm introducing to you this time is Zhao's younger brother. He is the same age as you, and has not yet married, nor does he have any concubines, as he has been stationed at the border all this time. Now that he has returned to the capital, it's the perfect opportunity for you two to meet. You will live well if you marry him." That evening, she left somewhat displeased. 3. I met the General Zheng that my mother had mentioned. Zheng Fuchen did not look any worse than his older brother. Having spent years on military campaigns, he was tall and upright, with a hint of martial severity between his brows. It seemed he did not like me, because from beginning to end, he had not shown the slightest trace of a smile. He also did not hide anything from me. He came straight to the point and said, "There is someone I'm fond of. I'm marrying you only to help her get rid of trouble." I listened and, for once, was smart enough to guess. Was that person Mingyi? Zheng Fuchen's throat moved. his dark eyes dangerously imposing. I already had my answer, he added. I will marry you and give you the status of my lawful wife, a lifetime of wealth and glory. But from this point on, you must not harbor any resentment toward her, and you must not scheme against her. If I discover otherwise, I will never forgive you. His words were resolute and unwavering, so decisive. The young master of the Duke's mansion is willing to marry me, just to keep me from disturbing my sister-in-law's beautiful life. Everyone in the capital is always thinking of Guomingi, and this general before me is even willing to sacrifice his own happiness for her sake. Yet, I too have someone hidden in my heart, a man who, at the age of 18, was drafted to the borderlands to fight in the war. I waited for him, from the age of 15 until 20, only to receive the news of his death in battle. He died in my heart. I have already been married once. I smiled at Zheng Fuchen and said, General, you don't have to humble yourself to such an extent for me. You say you are willing, but you never ask me if I am willing. You have someone in your heart, and so do I. You are willing to sacrifice your happiness for the one you love, but I am not. Zheng Fuchen was slightly stunned. I continued, I won't resent anyone, General. If you truly think I harbor ill intentions and want to use a transaction to put an end to my wicked thoughts, then please help me ask where the body of that young soldier named Wang Ming is. If possible, I'd like to build him a grave, for my attitude was resolute. Zheng Fuchen, however, was half believing and half doubting, thinking I was using a feint to lure him in. He still looks down on me, but I don't care. When I returned to the mansion, lively laughter and cheerful voices drifted from the front hall. As soon as I entered, I realized that Guomingi had brought her twins back to the Marquis's residence. She was chatting and laughing with my mother, while the two children, delicate and lovely like golden boys and jade maidens beneath the Guanyin throne, were happily entertaining my mother. She seemed a bit uncomfortable when she saw me, yet she still skillfully took my hand and chatted about everyday matters for quite a while. She also had her two children call me aunt. Guomingi mentioned the moonlight brocade my mother had given her and said with a smile, the moonlight brocade is truly comfortable. I had a long dress made from it and also had a small shirt made for each of the two children. It really is wonderful. Thank you, Mother. My mother laughed heartily and said, that moonlight brocade is rare. The Empress bestowed a bolt of it, saying that since Junna has returned home, she, as a maternal aunt, wanted to give a gift, but I thought, since you are now pregnant and your body is delicate, you should use it. Even if Junna wore it, she might not be able to carry the elegance of the moonlight brocade. Mother's words were perfectly reasonable, and Guomingi's smile gradually faded. The hall fell into silence. Mother suddenly realized what she had said and looked at me somewhat at a loss. Guomingi kept apologizing to me, then hurried away with the child. When my brother returned to the residence, he was quite puzzled. I just ran into Mingi. Her eyes were red, tears shimmering in them. Has she been wronged? My brother's scrutinizing gaze fell upon me. Mother then recounted the entire sequence of events. My brother's expression softened as he stepped in to mediate, saying, Mother is right. Even if the moonlight brocade were given to Janna, it might not fully convey the sentiment intended by our aunt, the Empress. That night, still troubled by the embarrassment of the day, my brother brought me a fine robe. He comforted me, saying, Janna, my mother and Mingi have been mother and daughter for 20 years. This bond cannot be shaken lightly. I understand. I could only accept it in this world. There is nothing one can do about feelings. That same night, Guomingi also sent over that garment made of yuhua brocade, along with 2 little children's shirts. The nurse said, Madam is truly overwhelmed with guilt. She said she has already taken up 20 years of mischievous life, and cannot owe her any more. I had no time to refuse before the nanny hurried away. The commotion here alerted my brother. When he saw the yuhua brocade, his eyes darkened, and he scolded coldly, How can you want everything? You're so selfish. Isn't the compensation enough for you? You even have to force Mingi to return a single piece of clothing to you, I explained. She brought it herself. I don't want it. Still making excuses. His words were piercing. Mingi is sensitive and attentive. If you hadn't shown your distress, why would she have done this? Truly a girl raised in the countryside, ignorant of manners. He snatched the fine clothes he had given me not long ago and cut them apart with scissors, turning them into a tangled mess that could no longer be worn under the moonlight. My brother left only a heartless silhouette behind, though the Marquis's estate was large. News spread quickly. Father and mother knew what had happened, yet they did not ask. The maids silently cleaned up the aftermath. I stood alone in the courtyard, where the fragrance of osmanthus blossoms drifted through the air. It's a bit cold. 5 The next day, my mother seemed to feel guilty. At the dinner table, she sighed and said she would take me shopping as a gesture of comfort. She took me to have clothes made, an unspoken form of compensation. After taking my measurements and selecting the fabric, something happened. A runaway, frenzied horse suddenly charged down the long street, galloping at high speed and overturning the stalls along the way. Ahead, an oblivious young child was crouched on the ground, crying without a second thought. I used a nearby bench to leap onto the horse's back, pulling on the reins with all my might and barely managing to halt its hooves just before it collided with the child. After dismounting, I noticed someone hurrying over from behind. It was Zheng Fuchen. He was extremely shocked. "You know horseback riding?" I nodded and handed him the reins, not wanting to say more. After my adoptive parents passed away from illness, I worked at a horse ranch in Qingju. The owners were kind and willing to teach me riding. Zheng Fuchen looked at me for a long time. The sunlight was behind him, making his face indistinct, but his gaze was burning hot. He suddenly let out a light laugh. After that incident, he looked at me in a new light. That very night, he personally sent over a gift, saying it was a token of thanks for subduing the runaway horse. The horse came from Zheng Fuchen's military camp, and if it had truly caused a death, he would have had trouble as well. Mother was overjoyed about this. She began to pay more attention to me. She told me that at the princess's banquet next month, the empress would also attend, and as my aunt, she wanted to meet me. When mother mentioned that the princess was planning to establish a girls' school, she frowned slightly, showing her disapproval. Studying is the hardest and most arduous thing. Even a child like Mingyi, who is so smart and willing to endure hardship, was only willing to study until the age of 14. How could other girls compare to her? She said. "Your brother suffers because of studying, but he is a man and must pursue official rank and fame, so he has no choice but to keep reading." As I listened, my mind gradually drifted when I learned that the eldest princess was going to select students from among the noble young ladies to test the waters first. My heart stirred slightly, but thinking of my own ignorance, my cheeks flushed with sudden shame. 6 On the day of the banquet, the elite of the capital gathered, and Guomingyi also brought her 2 children along. She and the heir, Zheng Fuzhao, were surrounded by a crowd, a perfect match made in heaven. Father and mother were busy doting on their grandchildren. The empress noticed me, who had been neglected. She beckoned to me, smiling affectionately, and praised me. "You are vibrant and full of energy." The eldest princess also smiled. "This cousin is like a hardy green pine." Listening to their praise, the unease in my heart gradually settled down. Halfway through the banquet, my mother finally remembered me. She brought the twins over to me and told me to get close to them. After all, we were family, but in the end, I didn't have much affection for them. After teasing them for a bit, I made an excuse to go to the restroom and left. When I came back, I discovered that a huge mess had broken out. The little girl among the twins had fallen into the water, but fortunately she was discovered in time and was now lying in Guomingyi's arms, crying. The little boy was also crying non-stop. Their mother kept asking, "What exactly happened? Didn't I leave them in Zhena's care? Where is Zhena? How did Wenwen end up falling into the water?" Under her repeated questioning, the boy didn't dare make a sound. Perhaps it was the adult's gaze that frightened him too much. He saw me and suddenly burst into tears. Pointing at me, he said, "It was Auntie Zhena who pushed Wenwen down. Auntie pushed Wenwen." The crowd fell into silence. Before I could explain, my mother's slap came down hard. My ears were ringing, and when I came to my senses, I heard her scolding angrily. "I thought you were just narrow-minded and held a grudge against Mingyi, but you even harmed a child. Heartless and ungrateful." At 13, I lost my mother, and at night I would secretly shed tears in sorrow, missing the warm embrace that carried the scent of grass. At 20, when I learned I still had a mother, I was overjoyed but also felt timid. Today I finally realized that a biological mother is just like this with moist eyes. I blinked and laughed. I was just in the restroom. As for how when fell into the water, you can ask her nanny or my maid, you'll find out immediately. Yet upon hearing this, those people all knelt down in fear, not uttering a word. The room fell into silence. Suddenly, I realized that the servant, whether from the Duke's residence or the Marquis's residence, had never truly been on my side. The banquet instantly turned into a farce. My mother was in excruciating pain and filled with hatred. Guomingi was crying and screaming heart-wrenchingly, and the heir's gaze seemed as if he wished to tear me to pieces. Zheng Fuchen stood behind Guomingi with utter indifference. Fortunately, in this isolated and helpless situation, there were still those who harbored kindness in their hearts. 7. What bad luck. I've been in the pavilion listening to music all day, and just happened to see everything that passed, with just a few words. The noble consort explained the matter clearly. It turned out that 2 children were playing by the pond. The boy accidentally gave the girl a push, and afraid of being blamed, he shifted the responsibility onto me. Once the truth came to light, he cried bitterly, and Guomingi comforted him with heartache. For a moment, Mother did not dare to meet my gaze that night. After returning to the manor, she brought me some ointment and said with shame, "Zhena, if you still want to go back to Qingju, Mother will have someone escort you back." By staying here, I had caused them trouble and made their home feel no longer like a home. But I looked at Mother and firmly shook my head. As soon as she spoke, her voice was choked with emotion. "Madam, is it because I grew up in the countryside that I am naturally crude and ill-tempered? Madam, in your eyes, I am inferior to Mingyi in every way, but I too want to wear beautiful dresses, I too want to apply rouge and powder, I too want to learn the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and become a woman who is well-read and knowledgeable, versed in both the ancient and the modern. I'm just a pig-raising girl, I'm not as educated as Mingyi. Is that my fault? Can a pig-raising woman only raise pigs for her whole life? Now, I don't want to go back, I want to go study." "Madam, I don't want to go back, I never want to be looked down upon again. Please give me back what I should have had. I want to become a student at the princess's mansion, I want to learn to read and write, I want to suffer like my brother, and I want to see how far this ignorant pig-raising girl can go." 8. Under my repeated accusations, my mother turned her face away in shame. She murmured, and after a long while, only a soft sigh remained. In the end, she did one thing for me. She managed to get me into the princess's mansion school. The school is located in Xiangshan, requiring 3 years of study, and one is not allowed to descend the mountain except for holidays or important matters. Before departure, my mother packed many things into my carriage. She always feared it wouldn't be enough, so she slept poorly those few days. She worriedly said to me, "Zhena, in 3 years you'll be 23, how will you ever get married?" I replied, "Then I simply won't marry." She was at a loss for words and lowered her head to pack my luggage for me. My mother tried her best to make up for it, striving to play the role of a qualified mother, though this effort was not even a tenth of what she gave to Guomingi. I knew this was the best she could do. No matter how much more I demanded, this was all she could manage, so there was no need to force it. Before leaving, she still hesitantly asked, "Zhena, why don't you call me mother anymore?" Her face was pale, and her health had never been good. In the misty fine rain, the fingertips gripping the umbrella handle had gone white. I smiled. "I don't call them father or brother either." She stood stunned, her eyes brimming with sorrow. When I arrived at Xiangshan Academy, I got to know some noble ladies. They were young, and having heard about my background, they were both curious about me and sympathetic toward me. I didn't want to say much, so the young lady from the left chancellor's household, Wei Qinglan, stopped their questions. Linking her arm through mine impatiently, she walked a little farther away before saying to me, "I just don't like Guomingi." I looked at her in surprise. After all, Guomingi was famous in the capital for her talent and learning, and she had a kind and gentle nature. Many noble ladies admired her or were on good terms with her. Wei Qinglan curled her lip. "I know, they all say privately that this matter can't really be blamed on Guomingi, that it was the wet nurse's fault, and that it wasn't her intention, so why blame her? But I just don't like her. I think she's usurped someone else's place." yet still occupies the position of the innocent, making people sympathize with her, making people hate her but not dare to hate her, resent her but not dare to resent her. How can one person take all the advantages? Wei Qinglan was broadly learned and more articulate than I was. Listening to her, I suddenly felt the suffocating frustration that had been building in my chest dissipate. I truly don't like Guo Mingyi. She is innocent, but I just can't help disliking her, yet every time I think about how I actually dislike her, I feel so despicable. Disliking her has instead become my fault, Wei Qinglan added. If you want to dislike her, then dislike her. If you don't like her, there's no need to force yourself to like her. This is your own business. You don't have to care about what others think. Yes, so what if I hate it? So what if I'm narrow-minded? I'm just that kind of person. I don't have to be a perfect person. At Xiangshan Academy, my restless heart gradually calmed down. I hadn't expected Zheng Fuchen to come see me before leaving the capital. His upright figure stood amid the green mountains after the rain, tall and imposing. He looked at me with a very complicated expression. He explained to me, "That day, I didn't speak up for you. It was my fault." Suddenly, it dawned on me he was here to explain why he had stood indifferently with the others when I was falsely accused of pushing Wenwen. He added, "Because I thought, how could a child lie?" The mountain breeze swept in, its cool tendrils seeping into my chest, making my heart suddenly skip a beat. I couldn't help but let out a soft, light laugh. "So, in your heart, General Zheng, you've long assumed I'm a despicable and malicious person. Because I'm like this, you never doubted whether the child might be lying." He murmured again, "It was my narrow-mindedness. I'm sorry." After pausing, he said, "If you are willing, I will make our engagement official before I leave the capital. You may go." My voice was icy. "General Zheng, in your eyes, your marriage is so valuable that offering it to me is like a favor. But I don't need it, and I disdain it." 9. Not wanting to say any more to him, I turned and went back to the academy. Later, I heard from a classmate that Zheng Fuchen stood on the mountain for a long time that day. No one knew what he was thinking, and he did not come down until dusk had fallen. His affairs are no longer my concern. Our relationship was always as thin as water. I focus on my studies. My starting point is much harder than that of these noble ladies. I fell behind from the very beginning of learning to read, so I can only use more time to catch up with them at night. When they are fast asleep, I light a candle alone in the study hall to review. On ordinary days, when they chased and played, inviting me to join their picnics, I could only decline, not daring to slack off for a moment. Through spring, summer, autumn and winter, I never stopped for a single day. Yet, despite such diligence, in the first year's annual assessment, I still ranked at the bottom. Wei Qinglan comforted me, saying I had already improved greatly compared to a year ago, and in another year, I would surely surpass my current self. I was greatly inspired and worked even harder. By the end of the third year, during a minor exam, I took the top spot. My classmates congratulated me one after another, and as I looked at their smiling faces, I felt immensely warm. I was well aware of my own abilities. Through 3 years of diligent study, I had indeed climbed to the upper ranks, but I was not so exceptional as to achieve first place. It was their deliberate humility that allowed me to accomplish this goal. That day, the Grand Princess happened to come by for an inspection. Upon hearing the news, she summoned me to the side room for a lively chat. The Grand Princess, however, did not talk to me about scholarship. She spoke with me about the livelihood of the people. She asked me, "You came from Qingju. Do you still remember the plague disaster 10 years ago?" I remembered. My foster parents had both died in succession from the plague. The eldest princess sighed. "We went too late. In the plague 10 years ago, the court initially did not take it seriously. Later, when it grew severe, the crown prince personally went there to oversee the response. However, the plague was deadly. The crown prince stayed only 3 days before returning to the capital. While only the eldest princess remained in Qingju, she personally went into the shelters to care for the patients and ladled kanji for the refugees under the scorching sun, rising early and working late into the night without ever giving up. Only when the imperial physicians finally developed a cure and the plague was brought under control did she finally breathe a sigh of relief and return to the imperial city. But the plague had, after all, affected many prefectures and counties, causing countless civilian casualties. Among them were some displaced people who were dissatisfied with the court's response and rose up in rebellion. Though the uprising was suppressed, people's livelihoods were thrown into turmoil as a result, and rumors spread that Prince Cheng had taken the opportunity to train a private army. The world was far from peaceful. Strong enemies lurked in the north, eyeing it covetously. Meanwhile, within the Shang dynasty, because of the struggle for succession years ago, Prince Cheng, far away in Shu, had long harbored resentment and unwillingness toward the imperial throne. I had heard of the eldest princess's virtuous reputation back when I was in Qingju. She had ability and courage, and could offer strategies and plans to His Majesty. If not for that, she would have long since been sent north by the emperor to marry into a foreign land. Yet although her ability was no less than the crown prince's, she could only remain beneath others. All because the crown prince was the son of His Majesty's late White Moonlight, and his position was extraordinarily secure that day. The eldest princess asked many questions, asking how we would rebuild our lives after the plague, whether we had suffered greatly, and whether the local authorities had done everything they could. I answered them one by one. After the disaster, the common people wept and sighed, then kept their feet on the ground, and rebuilt their homes. It was bitter and exhausting. But they would not give up. The Grand Princess said that beneath the iron hooves of disaster, the people were fragile, yet they also possessed boundless courage. That day, she told me that in half a month, I too could return home together with those noble ladies. 10. The day I arrived at the Marquis residence happened to be Mid-Autumn Festival. The Marquis residence was filled with joy and bustle, as their family was in the middle of happily enjoying a reunion banquet for Mid-Autumn Festival. Guo Mingyi and Zheng Fujiao came with the twins and their youngest child. The children's astonishingly candid remarks had everyone at the table laughing from ear to ear. A happy, warm family. Mother caught sight of me amidst the laughter, feeling quite embarrassed. She invited me to stay for a meal. "Zhena, why have you come back today? Come join us for dinner." I smiled and glanced around at the stiff-faced crowd, reminding her, "Madam, I sent a letter before coming down the mountain." She was too embarrassed to speak. Unconcerned by their varied expressions, I left some miscellaneous items at the Marquis's residence and prepared to leave that very night. Before leaving the residence, I gave the amulet I was wearing to my mother. At the beginning of the year, Master Guang'an of Huogua Temple went to Xiangshan Academy to give a sermon. After the sermon, I followed him to Huogua Temple and, in the Buddha Hall, devoutly prayed for an amulet. My mother damaged her health when she gave birth to me that year, and she has been frail ever since. As her daughter, I had nothing I could give her. To obtain a peace talisman for her would also settle a worldly bond. It can ensure safety and ward off evil. "Madam, you are frail, wear it close to your body." Mother touched the peace talisman and shed tears for a moment. I did not wish to see her tearful eyes and calmly left the Marquis's residence. The capital was growing increasingly unsettled, and the Grand Princess invited me to serve as an advisor in her residence along with me. There were also two fellow classmates. In early March, the northern Rome suddenly invaded and attacked two cities in succession. At this moment, Prince Cheng, who had long been biding his time, could no longer sit still. He took advantage of the chaos to stage a rebellion, leading a crack force into the imperial palace and pressing straight toward the emperor's bedchamber. That night, the fighting outside the palace was fierce. The crown prince, upon hearing the news, holed up in the eastern palace and fled overnight with his wife and children. He was cowardly and timid, disregarding the emperor's safety. In stark contrast, the usually silent eldest princess entered the palace to protect the emperor, successfully cutting down the Prince of Cheng amidst the rebel troops. The Grand Princess's fame spread far and wide. The ministers were uplifted, and the people praised her. In his anger and panic, His Majesty was deeply disappointed in the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was demoted to a commoner, while the Grand Princess received generous rewards. However, the Crown Prince was unwilling to accept this. In an attempt to reclaim the position of heir apparent, he intended to stage a palace coup. But fortunately the Grand Princess had already sensed it in advance and stopped him. The emperor was utterly disappointed. The crown prince was executed, and the eldest princess became the crown princess. Zheng Fuzhao, who had always firmly supported the crown prince, was implicated and plunged into deep trouble. 11 By then, I had already become a favorite of the eldest princess. My mother came rushing to beg me. She told me that although Zheng Fuzhao was on good terms with the crown prince, he had not known anything about the crown prince's rebellion. With tears in her eyes, she said, "How could Zhao commit treason? Zhana, you have to think about it. She is still raising 3 children. If she is really implicated, what will happen to her and the children?" I looked at the distant mountains outside the window, feeling an unusual calm in my heart. I asked, "Madam, what does Mingyi's matter have to do with me?" I smiled. "What do her child and I have to do with each other?" My mother froze. "You and Mingyi are, after all, sisters." Then she fell silent, and asked again, "Zhena, you refuse to help, unwilling. Do you blame your mother?" "Blame Yi? I don't want to, I just don't want to." Mother left despondently. Zheng Fuzhao was indeed implicated, stripped of his official position by His Majesty, who then had him imprisoned in the Dali Temple for interrogation. Rumors spread in the court that His Majesty intended to have him executed. Guomingyi wept all day long, and her mother, worried about her future, fell ill due to her already frail health. The Marquis and my brother also came to see me. They scolded me, saying, "She is, after all, your mother. You share blood ties. How can you bear to see her so seriously ill? You are truly heartless." After the scolding, they earnestly advised me, "Your mother fell ill precisely because she was worried about Mingyi. If you step in to help Mingyi, her illness will naturally improve. Zhena, you must not be selfish." I simply asked in return, "Marquis, why is it that you won't step in to help? Yet you come to pressure me instead." They were left speechless. I sneered, "Because you're also afraid that bringing this up at this moment will provoke the Emperor's wrath and implicate you. You dare not do it, yet you don't care whether I'll be dragged down with you." 12 When the people from the Marquis's residence came to plead with me and found it useless, Guomingyi had no choice but to come herself. Before she even spoke, tears had already fallen. "I know she must feel very wronged. Her husband has met with misfortune, and she can go beg the princess, beg the empress, beg her father and mother, beg her brother, but she alone cannot come to beg me because begging me would make her feel insulted. I was born inferior to them. How could she go beg someone lowly, someone who would never be better than her?" Yet she still spoke through her tears. "Zhena, you're now a favorite by the princess's side, and you hold an official post. Say a few good words for me before the princess, and have the princess intercede with His Majesty. There will always be a way." I was truly curious. I asked out loud, "Why do all of you think I have the ability to save your husband?" I couldn't make sense of it. No matter how I thought about it, no matter how much princess favors me, I'm still only a minor official. Would the princess listen to me? Would His Majesty listen to me? Her tears fell even harder as she murmured in a daze, I don't understand anything. Father said just beg you, and my brother said the same. If I pleaded with you, you would surely have a way. My parents-in-law are too preoccupied to help, and the Duke's residence is being watched closely. I snuck out here in secret. They said that if I came to find you, there would still be a glimmer of hope. You're favored by the princess, and the princess will ascend the throne in the future, if you intercede for us. I thought you must have a way. In such circumstances, she must have been beside herself. So her mind was not clear. I said to her, Mingyi, I have no way out. The Crown Prince's rebellion is a major affair. Zheng Fuzhao was previously close to the Crown Prince. As everyone in the capital knows, he cannot clear himself of the charge of involvement in the rebellion. Who would wade into this muddy water? 13. The Duke's estate has not been managed all these years for nothing. Zheng Fuchen, far away at the border, fought desperately to recapture 2 cities and sent a letter, offering to exchange all his military achievements for the lives of the entire Duke's estate. The border still needs Zheng Fuchen to hold the line, and the Dali Temple has not obtained any evidence of Zheng Fuzhao's actual involvement in the rebellion. His Majesty's anger gradually subsided. Zheng Fuzhao's life was spared, however. The Guogong Manor was stripped of its title. They could no longer remain in the capital in late autumn. After Zheng Fuchen had stabilized the borderlands, he returned to the capital to report on his duties. By then, I had completely transformed myself and was no longer as uneasy as I had been when I first entered the capital after court. I chatted with my colleagues about policy and the livelihood of the people. He followed behind at neither too far nor too near a distance, staring at my back, lost in thought for a moment. Now, I could ride horses, knew history, and could voice my own views on current affairs. I am a completely different person from the clueless woman I was many years ago. Zheng Fuchen started paying attention to me, he gave me gifts, found opportunities to talk to me, and when he looked into my eyes, they sparkled like stars. Passionate and straightforward, he began to genuinely like me, but I did not intend to accept his affection, so when he invited me to the tea house again for a talk, I agreed. I wanted to make things clear to him. I got straight to the point and made his feelings explicit. General Zheng, you like me, but in your heart, Mingyi is still there, isn't she? His expression was dazed, and then he shook his head very firmly. No, she is my sister-in-law. I have no feelings for her now at all. You're lying. You're deceiving yourself, I smiled and said. She is the person you've liked for many years, the white moonlight you've held in the palm of your hand and couldn't bear to defile. White moonlight never loses its color. There will always be a place in your heart reserved for her. He pondered for a long while, then said in a low voice, I grew up with my brother and Mingyi. Even if I no longer care for her now, she will always be my friend. Yes, she is your one and only friend, and you will give her unconditional trust and help, and the women who enter your life afterward can never compare to such a special friend. He said anxiously, that's not so. I have given you all of my heart, all of your heart, but not all of your love. Half of your love has long since been devoted to her. I looked at him and said firmly, word by word, General Zheng, you are a general who protects the country and defends our homeland. I respect you, and I ask that you respect me as well. I do not want a love that is divided in two. His body trembled. Zheng Fuchen, my father, my mother, my brother, their attitudes toward me were all the same. They would give me a tiny bit of love, as if such a thin, meager love were already a blessing for someone like me, who had endured so much suffering in the first half of my life. It seems I only deserve this little bit of love. Yet they would give Guomingyi all their love, but I already have love, so what more could I want? How could I still yearn for a love that is whole and complete? But I just don't want it. Even if I am weak and insignificant, I want to possess the complete love of one person. I do not want cheap pity. 14. Not long after our conversation at the tea house, Zheng Fuchen was about to return to the border. Before his departure, he still asked me, Zhena, are you still thinking about that soldier named Wang Ming? Yes, he asked me, he's just a lowly soldier, yet you care so much about him. Yes, he's just a lowly soldier. The sunlight was dazzling, blinding my eyes. I smiled, but my vision grew blurry. General Zheng, he is just a common soldier. Why can't I think of him? Does a common soldier not deserve to be remembered by a woman? Zheng Fuchen hung his head in shame. General, perhaps I will fall in love with someone else in the future, but in my heart, when it comes to affection, you will never compare to him. In all the stories under heaven, the lingering love between nobles, generals, scholars, and beauties is told in full, while a peasant girl and a common soldier are nothing more than a footnote, a mere punctuation mark. Two insignificant individuals. How could they be worthy of love, with a general already before my eyes? How could I be so ungrateful as to admire a mere soldier? It seems that love is something inherently reserved for dazzling people like Guomingyi and Zheng Fuzhao. It seems that love is divided by class and status. Zheng Fuchen remained silent for a long time. After a long while, he handed me a tattered pouch. Wang Ming has already passed away. The battlefield was strewn with corpses, and his body could no longer be found. This pouch was given to his comrade-in-arms before his death, entrusted to him for safekeeping. He cherished it deeply. Holding the pouch, I felt a surge of overwhelming sorrow. 15. I finally gave up all hope. Returning to Qingju, I built a cenotaph for Wang Ming. Not long after, the emperor passed away, and the eldest princess ascended the throne. My days gradually became busier. I heard news of Guomingyi Again 3 years later, my mother had not seen me for a long time and missed me, so she invited me to the Marquis's mansion for a meal. It was also on that day that Guomingi's letter arrived. The letter said that the place she was living in now was cold in winter and hot in summer, with harsh conditions, and she could not get used to it. After this ordeal, her husband could no longer pursue an official career, became dispirited, and spent his days drowning his sorrows in drink. The child had grown up and was extremely rebellious, hard to discipline. She did not know what to do. This meal was bitter and hard to swallow for everyone at once. Her father and brothers sent people to deliver silver. Her mother read the letter with tears streaming down her face, and could no longer sit still. She returned to her room and cried bitterly. Then she wrote back to Guomingi, telling her how to manage life. The letter paper was stained with tears, damp and torn. I witnessed all of this, silently. Finished this meal, and quietly left. No one noticed. Looking up at the bright moon in the sky, I realized my heart had long since lost its sorrow. After that night, my mother's old illness flared up again, and she could no longer get out of bed. My brother was worried about Guomingi and personally went to visit him. They are all very good mothers and brothers, just not mine. Unexpectedly, on his way back to the city, my brother was hit by falling rocks and lost a leg. Seeing this, mother coughed up blood. I only learned about all of this much later. After that dinner, I was sent by His Majesty to inspect Shu region, so busy all day that I hardly had time to touch the ground. As for the letters from the capital, aside from official business, everything else was delayed for a long time. Mother was already gravely ill. She hoped to see Guomingi once, but Guomingi wrote back saying that she had to look after the child and could not get away, and asked her mother to understand and take care of herself. Mother also hoped to see me once. She wrote, "Jenna, mother misses you and wants to see you. Come back, and call me mother once more, will you?" But I did not open her letter. I was unaware of it. When I finally had some free time and began opening the less important letters that had piled up, my maid came running over in a panic to tell me that my mother had passed away. At that time, she was in the depths of winter. The nights were bitterly cold, and a bright full moon hung high in the sky, icy and pure. I stared blankly at my maid. Only then did I realize my face was cold. Touching my face, I realized there were tears. 16 before her death, my mother murmured Mingi's name. Her most beloved child was not by her side, and she could not rest in peace. She had nothing to entrust to me, but she left all the dowry to me. My father was dealt one blow after another, the shattering of his son's leg and the death of his beloved wife, and his hair turned completely white. After the funeral, the Marquis's residence gradually returned to its former appearance, but in his heart, it had already become terrifyingly desolate. He and my mother had known each other since youth and had been deeply in love for many years. There had never been any concubines or illegitimate children in the household, and my mother's death was a tremendous blow to him. He lost heart for a time and retired to his hometown. As my brother's temperament grew increasingly gloomy, my father feared he would get into trouble, so he took him away as well. My father did not ask to see me one last time. In his heart, perhaps I had never been his daughter in their hearts. I am not a very good daughter either. Now my world is vast. I am no longer confined to favoritism or partiality. I have pursuits and like-minded friends. The world is boundless. Thinking of those letters filled with regret, I informed my maid that from now on, any letters must be delivered to me immediately. She did as told. I never expected that the first letter I received after this command would be from Zheng Fuchen. In his letter, he skirted around the main issue, saying that he had recently won a battle and that both he and his subordinates were very pleased. He also mentioned that my reputation had reached the border regions, where the people there spoke highly of me. At the very end, he asked me, with the borderlands scenery so magnificent, did I want to go over and take a look. That line was written in an extremely neat hand. Its owner must have put great care into every stroke. I burned the letter paper expressionlessly. I told the maid that every letter was important except his. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Today is the day I throw the embroidered ball to choose a husband. I've just spotted a dashing young man in splendid attire. I'm about to toss the embroidered ball down, but suddenly, Blocking bullet comments appear before my eyes. Don't throw it, whatever you do. There's a crazy female lead below who's going to snatch your embroidered ball and toss it to a beggar, that's right. And next to her is an idiotic prince male lead who'll use his power to force you into marrying that beggar. I refused to listen and tossed the embroidered ball down anyway. Just as the bullet comments predicted, it was snatched away, but before the embroidered ball could fully descend, I took the next one from the maid's hands. 1, 2, 3, a full 7. The barrage froze. The female lead was stunned. I gave a charming smile. Since I'm already taking in a son-in-law, wouldn't it be fine if I brought a few more into my backyard? The competition downstairs was fierce. Although the female lead was disguised as a man, she didn't conceal her chest and even wore makeup on her face. It's particularly obvious, strangely enough. Aside from me, others seem blind to it. You can't take this. Seeing the embroidered ball land in the male lead's hands, the female lead pouted and shot him a reproachful glare. The male lead seemed to thoroughly enjoy making the female lead jealous, deliberately holding the embroidered ball high just to tease her. It wasn't until the female lead crossed her arms and showed genuine anger that the male lead finally flashed her an overly sweet, doting smile. Patting her little head, he casually tossed the embroidered ball to her with a look of feigned disdain. The barrage comments were practically gnashing their teeth. What gives them the right to flaunt their love here? Do they even know where they are? These lunatics. I'd love to slap each of them 10 times across the face. And he has the nerve to act picky. Hilarious. Who cares about this filthy man who's been passed around by countless women, a rotten cucumber at best? Only the female lead would treat him like treasure. Having a mouthpiece in this world is truly a wonderful thing. Keep cursing. Curse more. I fanned myself contentedly with my round fan. Continuing to observe the scene below, the female lead clutched the embroidered ball while looking around, dodging the arms trying to snatch it from her. Who knows what she's deliberately searching for, but soon enough, she had chosen her target. With a leap, she flung the embroidered ball with pinpoint accuracy toward the filthy, stinking beggar in the corner. Hey, catch, your stroke of fortune has arrived. The barrage of comments exploded. Ah, that bitch, that damn bitch, so disgusting. Does she really think acting like this makes her cute and innocent? She's just vicious and wicked. While reading, some fans actually defended her, saying she didn't mean it. Phut. As if this wasn't intentional. Those pandering male-favoring protagonists should just die. I'm so furious. These days even animals can be female leads. The author's morals are completely twisted. That brain-dead idiot. I haven't cursed enough. The barrage comments were so angry the entire blue screen transformed into the shape of a pufferfish. So adorable, I really want to comfort them. But now isn't the right moment. So I suppress the urge to poke them with my finger. I shift my focus back to the female lead. As I had expected, the embroidered ball thrown toward the beggar didn't successfully land in his hands. Instead, it was intercepted midway by a strikingly handsome young man dressed in blue. Not only that, but whether intentionally or not, the young man had stepped directly on the female lead's head with considerable force while using Qigong to snatch the ball mid-air, and he did so with quite some vigor. He directly stomped the female lead flat onto the ground. The barrage of comments on the blue screen instantly transformed into swaying sunflowers. Whose subordinate is this? To be so fearless. We are greatly pleased. Reward him, and handsomely. So satisfying. My pent-up frustration from 10 years has finally been released. This young man is impressive. Let's take him in. Ha 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 ha. Here he. Cough. Sorry. Got a stitch laughing. Ha ha ha. I tapped my folding fan against the tip of my nose, lowering my eyes to hide the infectious smile tugging at my lips. A maid nearby served tea and snacks. Young Master Nai Sang truly lives up to being the Martial Alliance leader's only son. Such elegant lightness skills. But didn't he already catch the embroidered ball? Why is he still grabbing others? Following the maid's gaze, I saw that fellow Nai Sang already had 3 embroidered balls in his hands. What a clever rogue. No matter, I comforted the somewhat worried maid. Let him be. If he can snatch them, that's his skill. The barrage comments also noticed this point. This guy's grabbing so many embroidered balls. Is he trying to reduce the 7 spots to just himself? Honestly, I just don't get this whole embroidered ball throwing thing. The plot twist is way too unconventional. Upstairs slowpoke, please shut up. Let me speak, I know best. 7. Embroidered balls. 7 Live-in sons-in-law. Right, who says a woman can't have multiple husbands? This is all thanks to the ironclad law decreed by the founding empress. If men can have multiple wives, then naturally women can have multiple husbands too. Yeah, thinking of the founding empress, I couldn't help but feel a pang of melancholy. What a pity, what a pity. Among the succeeding empresses, there was one who became love-struck, deceived by a man into surrendering her empire, causing women's status to plummet drastically. Those love-struck fools should all be exiled to apocalyptic wastelands to feed zombies. You're an empress, yet you insist on being a simp. Such a miserable end is entirely self-inflicted. Hey, we're getting off topic here. We're supposed to be selecting husbands. Quick, look at the one in red, that slender waist, those delicate legs, that androgynous beauty mark on his face. Drools, stop arguing. Didn't you see his underhanded moves, every strike aimed for the face? A true venomous beauty if there ever was one. Neither will do, both are too scheming and jealous. The one in white is perfect, gentle, elegant, jade-like refinement with golden substance. Good. How did you miss the dozen people knocked out cold by his folding fan? They're piled up like a small mountain. The barrage of comments grew increasingly heated and steadily more risque. Fortunately, there are still decent people around. What are you doing? What are you doing? Put away your nonsense. Don't forget Ching Ching can see everything we say. Mind your manners. Manners. A moment of frozen silence on the screen. Before I could finish marveling at how unusual this barrage of comments was, the blue comment screen suddenly turned completely red. What if I said I forgot? Would you believe me? Oops. Actually, the previous one was my second personality. This is my main personality now. So sorry about that. My second personality is just too unreliable. Yes, the one who posted earlier was my little brother. This is really me now, don't worry. I've already given him a good scolding. Visible tension hung in the air. I waved my maids and guards to step back before speaking softly. Feel free to be yourselves, immortal maidens. I'm quite enjoying this. The barrage of comments twisted shyly into little pretzel shapes. Oh dear, don't call me a fairy. Truth is, I'm just an ordinary office worker, few friends, little money, and socially awkward to boot. My darling Ching Ching, I love you, you're my everything under the sun. Twinkle twinkle, little star, my eyes see only Ching Ching dear. Woo woo, my precious Ching Ching, we've all come just for you. You must promise to be wildly happy, all for me. Thinking back to the strange world my soul entered after death in my previous life, the authors, novels, and reader comments I saw there, suddenly, I understood. Rebirth was never a blessing, rather, it's these lovely and kind-hearted readers who are striving to redeem me. Yes, I've been reborn in my past life. I was ruined by the male and female protagonists, and even dragged my father into their schemes, leading to his death in this life. Revenge is mine to take. For over a decade, I had been meticulously planning for this very purpose. Gradually, I became consumed by vengeance, nearly forgot who I truly was. Fortunately, the barrage of comments snapped me out of it. Rather than revenge, I should focus on being happy. My heart felt both warm and sour as I fought back tears, tightening my grip on the folding fan's handle. Who would have thought that in this moment of distraction, trouble would arise below? It turned out Nai Sang was trying to throw out the beggar crouching in the corner. The female protagonist Chi Yang saw this and indignantly stepped forward to argue with him. She forcibly snatched an embroidered ball from Nai Sang's arms, intending to compensate the beggar who was crying with snot running down his face. Nai Sang naturally refused and began fighting with Chi Yang. In the scuffle, he accidentally knocked loose her male hairstyle, exposing her true identity as a woman. At this moment, the male lead Ji Yu jumps out to play the hero and rescue the beauty, revealing his identity while spouting a bunch of sophistry and twisted logic. In truth, it's just using his influence to bully others into apologizing. If the person he was facing were just some ordinary rich young master, they probably would have been convinced by his so-called reasoning. But as fate would have it, the one he's up against is Nai Sang. The martial world has always been at odds with the imperial court. The current leader of the martial alliance, Nai Sang's father, was once poisoned by a court spy. If not for the miraculous doctor's timely treatment, Nisang's father would have nearly lost his life. When the investigation concluded, all evidence clearly pointed to the one sitting on the dragon throne. If there's anyone who harbors the deepest hatred for the royal family, Nisang would undoubtedly rank among the top two. Thus, Gu was taught a lesson by Nisang with fists. What seventh prince? I've seen the eighth prince, who shares the same mother as the seventh prince. You look nothing like that scoundrel, daring to impersonate royalty. Seems you've grown tired of living. Beat him up. One step forward, countless heels trampled. Nisang even made a point of kicking between people's legs. It was painful just to watch, but you couldn't blame him for being so vicious. He was avenging his father's death because of the poisoning incident. Alliance leader Nai later became, well, somewhat inadequate in certain aspects, to the extent that he was heartlessly abandoned by his wife. Now Nisang's mother has already had a second child with that miracle doctor. How dare you? This prince has a jade token as proof I am the genuine seventh prince of the current dynasty. Ah, you lowly commoner, this prince shall kill you. Stop hitting me, stop. Jiu's face twisted in agony, his complexion turning purplish red as he curled up, clutching a certain area, rolling back and forth on the ground. Not a trace remained of his former graceful demeanor. Even the desperate screams begging for mercy were drowned out by the crowd's indifference. As for that jade pendant, Nisang had long seized the chance to stomp it into smithereens beneath his foot. Seeing the situation escalating dangerously, it would be rather impolite for me, the host, to remain a passive spectator any longer, so I began descending the stairs, step by deliberate step, just a few steps, then stop because my father arrived fiercely with a large group of guards. Today is my precious daughter's embroidered ball toss to choose a husband. Let me see who dares to cause trouble on Shinjinsai's turf. It's him, Uncle Shin. I saw it clearly, it was them. The youth, dressed in fiery red robes, blazing like the midday sun, lodged his complaint with remarkable clarity. They've turned this proper spouse selection gathering into utter chaos. Their qualifications should be revoked, and all of them driven out. The young man smiled, the mole at the corner of his right eye bewitchingly alluring. I found it quite delightful to behold, but father really disliked his mannerisms. He thought him utterly like a frivolous playboy, the kind of delicate-faced man who'd get bullied by other men for this embroidered ball toss to choose a son-in-law. Father had originally ordered people to deliberately keep it from him, but I secretly had someone slip him the news. Dad doesn't like it, but I do. He can even sing opera with those melodious trills. He's got a heaven-sent voice, absolutely delightful to hear. Hey Jen boy, what brings you here too? Dad indeed glared at Jenyi with extreme disdain. When his gaze fell on the embroidered ball in Jenyi's hands, he instinctively reached out to snatch it. Ah, Uncle Shin, what are you saying? I've wanted to marry Sister Ching since childhood. Of course I had to come. Jenyi took a step back, hiding the hard-won embroidered ball behind him, clutching it tightly as if afraid it might be snatched away. Yet his face remained all smiles. Uncle Shin, Qingjie and I grew up together, innocent and inseparable. There could be no better match than us, a union made in heaven. Father pointed at him, his beard trembling with rage. I hurried downstairs, quickly moved to his side, and gently patted his back. Father, official matters come first. Then I glared at Jenyi. Not a word was spoken, but Jenyi instinctively reached to pinch his ears and kneel. Fortunately, he quickly recognized the situation and made a clumsy gesture to cover it up. At least he didn't embarrass me. It was unbearably hot outside, and I had no intention of letting outsiders watch the spectacle. So I arranged for the troublemakers and those holding embroidered balls to be taken to the mansion's main hall. Thus, this groom selection ceremony came to an end. Before we could even enter the hall, Father urgently pulled aside Jenyi, who was grinning cheekily, and took him elsewhere. Left alone, I found myself perfectly capable of handling the situation. After all, apart from the pair lying on the ground crying, the other two were old familiar faces. These numbers don't add up. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. There are only 3 with embroidered balls. Nisang in blue snatched 3, Jenyi in red grabbed 1, and the rest were all taken by that Shi Zhengqing in white. The one in white is truly a wolf in sheep's clothing. He deliberately let others ruin two during the scramble, so now he only holds one. TSK. Doesn't this make Nisang look both greedy and scheming? Jianyi isn't favored by his father-in-law either, so Shi Zhangqing naturally stands out, truly worthy of being the top scholar who achieved 6 perfect scores. Seeing these comments flash by, I instinctively glanced at Shi Zhangqing, who was elegantly fanning himself with a folding fan. My gaze was instantly caught, his eyes smiled, tender as spring water, seemingly capable of drowning one in their depths. I quickly averted my eyes. Those eyes that could gaze at a dog with such affection were truly impossible to withstand. Here they were exchanging flirtatious glances, while over there the female lead was crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. She'd been scared to tears by the enormous needle the manor physician pulled out. Ji Yu had been beaten unconscious by the mob, and the physician needed this method to gently awaken his slumbering soul. The female lead, was terrified of needles. My lord, wake up quickly. Qi Yang vigorously shook Ji Yu, who was receiving acupuncture, and then accidentally pushed the needle all the way in. The court physician immediately raised both hands above his head. This wasn't my doing. The barrage immediately followed suit. I saw it too. It really wasn't this old doctor's fault. He warned her repeatedly not to touch anything, but she was like Defziwei, can't hear, won't hear. No, she's more like Xiaoyanzi, first class at causing trouble, screwing over others and especially her own people. She's like a demon child disaster incarnate. Anyone near her is bound for misfortune. Hey, what do we do now? Once these two lunatics break free, they'll definitely come back for revenge. Should we just kill them? Good suggestion. But I suggest you stop suggesting, though Prince Ji Yu was the 7th prince who lacked favor, and Qi Yang was merely the illegitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, constantly bullied by her sisters. But these two were seen by many today. If we kill them, we can't keep it quiet. But even if they don't kill me, I won't make things easy for them. Gently stroking the small snake disguised as a jade bracelet around my wrist, I stood up and approached, coaxing softly, "Miss, please stop crying. It's better to cooperate with the physician first and let him remove the needles embedded in this gentleman's arm." Extending my hand, I pretended to help her up. Qi Yang showed no gratitude and forcefully slapped my hand away. I anticipated this and withdrew my hand, letting hers continue downward to land heavily on another silver needle embedded in Ji Yu's arm. This not only jolted Ji Yu awake from the pain, but also made Qi Yang howl like a monkey in agony. My hand, the small hand, was sliced open by the silver needle, leaving a long, thin gash that wouldn't stop bleeding. Qi Yang cried so hard that snot bubbles formed. Why you? I grabbed her hand firmly. How could you be so careless? Miss, come, let the manor physician examine you. We wouldn't want scars to form. With that, I stepped aside. The manor physician crouched down with an exasperated expression, holding a magnet to extract the 2 nearly invisible silver needles embedded in her flesh, all while offering comforting words to his patient. Don't move if you're awake, or else these silver needles will go deeper and we'll have to make incisions to remove them. And you, madam, please step back a bit, otherwise, I can't help feeling this gentleman's injuries might accidentally worsen. TSK, they've all fainted. Young people these days have such strong constitutions, they can fall asleep anywhere. Someone come help carry them to the side room. All this blood is making a mess of the floor. The physician had served in the Shun residence for nearly 20 years. One might say he'd watched me grow up. These two ruined my husband's selection event, so naturally the old man dislikes them too. Just then, father, who had gone off to speak privately with Jianyi, returned. Sweetheart, where are they? After I explained, father's expression became indescribably complicated, but before he could speak, a fiery red figure darted past him from behind, pushing him aside. Sister Qing, I clearly caught the embroidered ball, but Uncle Shun went back on his word. He doesn't want me to marry you. How could he do such a thing? He clung to my arm like sticky syrup, his upper body practically draped over my shoulder. If I can't marry, then what about him? And him, aren't they in the same boat? They were all chosen as live-in sons-in-law by catching the embroidered ball. Surely you can't just single me out. That would be too cruel. Sister Qing, Don't you feel sorry for Anna anymore, Jenny, styled Yong'an. It was I who gave him that courtesy name. I'm 19 this year, and he's 3 years younger than me. When we were little, I once held him in my arms, and he peed all over me. I was so angry I couldn't eat all day and avoided him ever since. But this kid, I don't know what's wrong with him. The more I ignored him, the more he wanted to play with me, even though most of the time I just treated him like a little sparrow to amuse myself. He was also very happy. However, when Jenny was 10 years old, his entire family moved away, and I never saw him again. The next time I heard news of him was when he became the true son, found and reclaimed by the princess. After the commotion surrounding the real and fake heirs died down, the princess unexpectedly passed away after becoming entangled in imperial power struggles. As for what became of Jenny, at that time I could hardly protect myself, being virtually imprisoned within the mansion. So naturally I heard no news from the outside world. After my rebirth, my first priority was to devise ways for the princess and Jenny to recognize each other ahead of time. The reason He hasn't yet returned to the princess's mansion to reclaim his rightful identity is that the princess needs to deal with some filth first, such as the princess consort, the woman he kept outside, the fake heir who knew his true identity all along, and certain people, factions, and traitors who aided the princess consort behind the scenes. She wanted her son to live in the pristine and safe residence of the Grand Princess, not in a thorny forest surrounded by wolves. It must be said, the Grand Princess was truly an excellent mother, but that didn't stop me from training her son into an obedient little dog. After all, with Jenny under my control, if Ji and Qi Yang dared to move against me, the Grand Princess would never stand idly by. Of course, Jenny was just one of my safeguards. All right, be good. I patted his head, and he obediently lowered it to let me pet him. He kept muttering under his breath, "Then you'd better not go back on your word like father-in-law did, or I won't let you off easy." The young master's coquetry was truly lethal. MPH, always so glib-tongued. Who's your father-in-law? I certainly won't agree to it, so don't even think about it. Father's face turned cold as he shook his head, only to immediately replace it with a warm smile. Nephew Nai, Jing Qing, your presence truly brings me great joy. However, my daughter isn't taking just one husband into our family. Have you both discussed this matter with your families? Especially you, Nephew Nai, as the only son in your family. Can the old alliance leader truly agree to this? Seeing Dad's expression, I knew exactly what sneaky scheme he was cooking up. This kind of disparity would be unbearable for any man with self-respect, especially for an impulsive young lad. Only this time, his calculations are bound to fail. After all, these were the candidates I had personally selected as potential sons-in-law. Each one was a well-trained romantic, the type who would sacrifice everything for love. Sister Qing, what does father-in-law mean by this? He seems to dislike me particularly. Did I do something wrong? I can change anything. I just want to marry sister. That's all. I don't know what I did wrong. Is loving someone too much also a mistake? If father-in-law truly dislikes me, sister, you can keep me outside the home. As long as I'm with you, I don't mind suffering a little injustice. Pearl-like tears streamed from Jenyi's reddened eyes. The young man wept with such genuine emotion, his face wet with tears like rain-soaked pear blossoms. This spectacle made my 200 catty father tremble with rage, his lips twitching and belly quivering. Ha ha ha, this little green tea bitch hasn't even entered the door yet and has already offended her father-in-law. It seems that besides mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, father-in-law and son-in-law conflicts shouldn't be overlooked either. My dear Qing Qing, don't be fooled by his trick, his retreating in order to advance. This delicate husband act left Nai Sang and Shi Zhengqing, who were trying to maintain their dignified and reserved silence, utterly dumbfounded. Who could possibly stay seated now? Nai Sang was the first one who couldn't stay seated. He directly grabbed Jian Yi's intricately beaded bone braid with its delicate little bells and pulled him away, then squeezed himself into the middle, pressing closest to me. What are you doing? So clingy, your snot's about to drip onto A Qing. Men and women should not touch when giving and receiving. You clearly lack any sense of propriety. You must frequent pleasure houses often, charming other girls with sweet words. Don't you Don't try your tricks on Arching, she's not the kind of woman to be fooled by sweet talk. Besides, Uncle Shen doesn't like you either, you'd better go back where you came from. The barrage of comments also crowded in, but every single word was teasing. Oh dear. She's not the kind of woman to be swayed by sweet talk, but somehow it looks like our Ching Ching is thoroughly enjoying herself. Call me sister, and I'd give you my life. I can testify that Ching Ching loves it, absolutely adores it. The more pitiful Jian looks when he cries, the more excited she gets, her eyes just light up. The barrage of comments was practically right in my face. I want to crawl into a hole and bury myself. They really didn't treat me as an outsider. Are you feeling hot? Why is your face so red? Shi Zhengqing appeared beside me unnoticed, gently fanning me with his folding fan. He was always the quietest one, but among these few, he was the one with the deepest thoughts and the most obsessive tendencies. Jian Yi and Nai Sang argued heatedly until their quarrel spilled into the courtyard, where they came to blows. During the process, Nai Sang couldn't resist snatching the red silk ball that Jian Yi kept proudly swinging at his waist. I couldn't be bothered with them. My gaze fixed on the smile playing at the corner of Shi Zhengqing's lips. Every minute of radiance was perfectly measured, as if carefully calculated with a ruler. Young lads lack steadiness. If one were to enter your courtyard, there'd surely be quite a stir. See, such suggestive words, as if he's the only suitable one. I snatched the folding fan from his hand in annoyance, closed it, and pressed it against his chin, forcing him to meet my gaze. That's an ugly smile. Do it again. He froze for a moment, then deliberately leaned closer and actually gave me another smile. Some people, when they smile genuinely, resemble sunlight glistening on lakes and mountains after rain, sparkling, radiant, beyond compare, especially with his unexpectedly adorable little dimples. How about this? He blinked his eyes deliberately, feigning innocence. I couldn't resist poking his little dimple with my finger. Pretty. The barrage of comments was filled with doting smiles. Don't be fooled by some people's calm composure. Their ears are practically steaming red. Cute, cute, cute. Here he. I scream, twist, and frantically feed them dog food. Heavenly taste, delicious. Ching Ching. Go take a look at Shi Zhengqing's right hand behind his back. I bet you anything, his clenched fist must be sweating in the palm. Shut up, gambler upstairs. In such a perfect atmosphere, they should just kiss already. TSK, here comes the mood killer. A red embroidered ball blocks the line of sight. Jian Yi's angry voice came urgently as he nearly ran over. What are you doing, Sister Ching? Is he trying to seduce you? You even teased him with his fan. Do you prefer older-looking men like him? Jian Yi looked utterly wounded, his rosy little mouth pouting so hard it could have hung an oil pot. I smiled and pressed down his hand holding the embroidered ball. We're going to live together from now on. Why are you still jealous? I took his hand, interlaced our fingers tightly, and gave it a little shake. Xiao Yi, Zhengqing is 7 years older than you. From now on, why don't you call him Big Brother? When it comes to coaxing people, I'm quite adept. Sure enough. Jian Yi immediately stopped being angry, even struggling to suppress a slight upward twitch at the corner of his mouth. Fine. Who asked him to be older than me? I'm the youngest among the three of us, with no advantage except that you might like me a little more. Qingjie, you mustn't play favorites. His tone practically called me out by name, so that makes me second best. Nai Sang appeared out of nowhere and quite naturally took hold of my other hand. As for the folding fan in his hand, he tossed it back to Shi Zhengqing. I looked at him helplessly. Yet I saw him gripping his hair with one hand, a blue hair ribbon clenched between his teeth as he tried to tie it back. Unable to bear watching any longer, I took the ribbon from his mouth and prepared to tie his hair for him. Seeing my movement, Nai Sang happily squatted into a horse stance. Afraid I wouldn't be able to reach, but grievances must still be voiced. That brat Jian Yi fights dirty. When he couldn't win, he yanked my hair and nearly snapped the hair ribbon you gave me. It broke my heart. You've given me so few gifts to begin with, and this ribbon was last year's birthday present. Understood. His birthday is coming soon this year. I carefully tied his hair into a handsome high ponytail. It's all right. Once we're married, I'll give you hair ribbons every day and tie your hair for you. Nai Sang was so delighted that his gums were showing from grinning. Jian Yi leaned in persistently. unwilling to be ignored. What about me? What about me? Do I get a gift too? He already has a hair ribbon, so I don't want that. Qingjie, buy me little bells instead, the kind of little bells that can be woven into hair, one chime with each step, one thought with each step. I want Jie to think of me whenever she hears the sound, to keep me in her heart always. I found myself somewhat overwhelmed. The hardest favor to repay is a beauty's kindness. Even Pian Shiqing squeezed in to join the fun. Everyone's asking Qingqing for gifts, but I actually have a gift for Qingqing. In his hand appeared an exquisite golden hairpin, appearing as if by magic. It's exactly the kind I like. A man giving a hairpin to a woman inherently carries romantic connotations, and him presenting it now makes it all the more meaningful, instantly putting these two bystanders to shame. Just as I was at a loss for what to do, father, who had slipped away earlier, suddenly returned. Ahem, you're not even married yet. Behave yourselves, especially you. Jianyi, they're fine, but not you. You come here. Right now, we need to have a serious talk. Jianyi was dragged away mercilessly by his father, ear firmly pinched. He dared only to yelp in pain, not daring to struggle. Sister Qing, wait for me. I won't give up. Father-in-law, be gentle. If you ruin it, Sister Qing will be heartbroken. She loves my face the most. Oh right, the embroidered ball. Sister Qing, please keep it safe for me. I want to preserve it later. Don't let father-in-law snatch it away. Who knows what father did, but Jianyi was knocked unconscious overnight by someone sent by the Grand Princess and taken away. I know he dislikes how I threw the embroidered ball to choose so many husbands at once, and how I got involved with powerful figures. The former is because he's old-fashioned and stubborn, while the latter stems from his fear that I'll be dragged into trouble he can't protect me from. But I know that after today, he'll agree, because those two brain-damaged protagonists woke up and were immediately taken away by their belatedly arriving secret guards. Before leaving, they still wanted their secret guards to kill my entire family. The barrage comments kept watch over them for me, so the moment they made a move, the martial arts masters I had arranged captured them all in one fell swoop. I deliberately let the male and female leads escape. These two are dumber than I thought, going out for fun yet deliberately shaking off their secret guards. Sending such masters to their early reincarnation counts as my boundless virtue. In their past life, they merely basked in their status and power, while I was just an ordinary merchant's daughter. Qingqing, what if we've gone too far? These two are the male and female leads. Could they have some protagonist halo or something? Right, better kill them as soon as possible. Both hold grudges. You may be an unfavored prince now, but once his mother's wrongful adultery accusation is cleared, he'll become the emperor's beloved again. Then he'll be harder to kill. I'm someone who doesn't take advice, yet also does so. Earlier in the hall, I planted Gu through their wounds. The sleeve was lifted, revealing a small snake on the wrist that opened its eyes, its agile body coiled around my fingertip, the snake's head nuzzling affectionately. So this wasn't a bracelet after all. How fascinating. No way, why does this little snake act so dog-like? Qingqing, did you use this thing for the Gu poison? Holy cow, didn't any of you notice, this snake? Isn't it exactly the life-bound Gu of that major villain from the book, the one who nearly killed both the male and female leads? The live comments sure know a lot. The major villain, that shy little meow boy who blushes at the drop of a hat, loves beautiful silver ornaments, has those rare jade blue and peach pink heterochromatic eyes, and always covers them with sheer white gauze. Is he really this formidable? Confess. Qingqing, are you keeping other wild men too? I've given you my lifeblood. Gu, that's literally giving you my life. If used to save someone, this thing can bring the dead back to life. Must be that big villain Yi Xianxian, with that angelic face looking pure and harmless, acting like he knows nothing, yet his Gu magic is terrifyingly slick, and he kills faster than lightning. If it's him, then Qingqing, you'd better be careful. Miaojiang men aren't allowed to marry into families, but judging by the book's description of the villain's personality, he's eccentric and petty. Exactly. The female lead accidentally killed one of his Gu worms, and he spent 10 whole years hunting down both protagonists, leaving them unable to sleep peacefully or eat comfortably. I completely agree with this. For example, Right now he's probably hiding somewhere dark within 50 meters of me, just waiting for me to call his name, but I still have important matters to attend to, so I'm in no hurry to comfort the puppy. A knock sounded at the door, and I followed the butler to the secret chamber behind the rockery. The beggar from daytime was tied to the torture rack, covered in wounds, his tendons were severed, his collarbones pierced through, and his once somewhat handsome face hidden beneath the filth had been slashed beyond recognition, especially between his thighs, already a bloody mess. It was clear someone had swiftly and ruthlessly ensured he would never father children. The steward respectfully presented a clean barbed whip for me to vent my fury. Young mistress, we've uncovered everything. This beggar appeared at your embroidered ball-throwing ceremony because someone deliberately brought him there. At this point, the steward's voice carried anger. That woman was the one who brazenly claimed to be the 7th prince's consort. She said she pitied this beggar for not getting any coins, so she covered for him and helped him sneak into the embroidered ball-throwing event. The gatekeeper Guzi, who accepted bribed silver from that woman, has already been given 50 lashes, had his tongue cut out, and been sold off. As for this beggar, his name is Chen San. He lives under a bridge and has an elderly mother, a younger sister, and a few good-for-nothing beggar friends, all captured and held next door. Does the young mistress wish to deal with them? Thinking of how Chen San's family in my past life tormented me, their daughter-in-law, under all sorts of pretexts, those so-called friends were even worse, climbing through my window in the dead of night attempting to violate me, then claiming they were drunk and had mistaken the place. Apply every usable torture to them until death. If kindness invites bullying, then perhaps cruelty is warranted. After my rebirth, I originally intended to eliminate these people in advance, but strangely, I couldn't find them anywhere. It was probably the so-called plot at work. Fortunately, however, they remained as greedy as ever, wanting to gamble for unimaginable wealth. Then let them all die. No, please don't kill me. I was wrong, noble sir, spare me. I'll never dare again. Chen San had probably been feigning unconsciousness to eavesdrop all along. Seeing that I'd finished giving orders and was about to leave, he finally couldn't hold back anymore. Look at this man, how selfish and cold-hearted. He only cares about begging for his own life, with no regard for his mother, sister, or friends. Afraid of death. That's just perfect. If you don't want to die, then pack your things, have his tongue cut out and send him to the lowest brothel, the kind that only serves beggars. Oh, and to keep him company, send his beggar friends along too. Remember, whatever happens to him, happens to his friends as well. I certainly don't want others recognizing them and hearing filthy words coming from their mouths. Understand? The butler bent his waist even lower, repeatedly agreeing. Fine beads of sweat even appeared on his forehead. Good. It seems he'll be more attentive in his duties from now on. Stepping out of the secret chamber, bullet comments immediately floated before my eyes. I didn't let them follow me inside, and they obediently stayed out. Part of it was not wanting to scare them, but more than that, I didn't want them to see my cruel and bloody side. If they feared or dreaded me, their love would diminish. Ching ching, what about that beggar? Don't go soft on him. Even though the female lead brought him in, he must have his own ulterior motives. Exactly. Such trash should be eradicated early to prevent future troubles. And his old mother, fake sister, and rotten friends, they should all be killed, every last one of them. How dare they bully our Ching Ching? 1,000 cuts wouldn't be enough. Best to dump a bucket of aphrodisiacs on them and let those beggars suffer till death. Well, damn, should we say every pot has its matching lid? My worries seem somewhat unnecessary. The barrage comments gave me many new perspectives and ideas, which I studied quite earnestly. There's still the male and female leads. They'll come in handy sooner or later. I'm no longer satisfied with simply giving them a quick death using GU magic. Aren't the male and female leads supposed to be true love? Then shouldn't true love endure some trials? The barrage comments started cackling. With just one glance, we understood each other perfectly. Plot point 17. The male and female leads will be assassinated by remnants of the former dynasty. The male lead falls off a cliff while protecting the female lead, loses his memory, and is found by a peasant girl. Plot point 23. The female lead's identity as a princess of the former dynasty is discovered by its remnants. After being taken away, She collaborates with the male lead to eliminate these remnants. Plot point 56. I began making my arrangements. Since I already knew the plot, naturally I had ways to make these events happen ahead of schedule, and so, while father was busy preparing for my grand wedding to take a husband, I hid in the shadows, watching as the amnesiac male lead was rescued by the peasant women I'd arranged in advance. All were widows living deep in the mountains, sturdy, broad-hipped women known for their fertility. After bringing the amnesiac male lead back and nursing him back to health, I began ordering him around, forcing myself on him in every possible way. Within a few months, each of them was carrying a child in their belly. The male lead, once a rather handsome man, became gaunt-cheeked, with dark circles under his eyes and trembling legs utterly weakened. Gradually, he became less and less useful. On the heroine's side, remnants of the previous dynasty discovered her identity ahead of time and immediately took her away. As it turned out, once the heroine arrived at their stronghold, she killed the only imperial prince, who happened to be her own elder brother. When I received this news, I was dressed in wedding attire, sitting atop the young Miao tribesman, coaxing him into becoming my secret lover. I truly hadn't expected the heroine to be so easily fooled. I had someone drop a few hints to egg her on. The female lead truly dared to go through with it. The remnants of the former dynasty were shocked, panicked, and began treating the female lead as nothing more than a breeding tool. Yet each harbored their own ulterior motives, and for the time being, this ironically made the female lead safer. She was even given a chance to escape. I had someone secretly help her. Then when the female lead escaped and stood with arms akimbo laughing triumphantly at the sky, I gave her a whack with a club. She fainted, was thrown back inside, and conveniently ran into the private soldiers of the princess who came to capture remnants of the previous dynasty. That was also my arrangement. The identity of the female lead as a princess of the fallen dynasty could no longer be concealed, forcing her chancellor father to retire and return to his hometown. The old emperor was also a fool. Instead of executing her, he enshrined her as a mascot. This turn of events led the remaining cunning survivors of the fallen dynasty to misunderstand. They believed she was a fake princess deliberately planted to assassinate their crown prince. What a vicious scheme! And so, once again through my arrangements, the remnants of the former dynasty found Qi Yang, the male lead who was raising children in the mountains. Well, by this time more than a year had passed. I had already begun enjoying a life of luxury, with beauties on both arms, happily watching bullet screen comments while munching on melon seeds. Talk about bamboo shoots sprouting everywhere. This plot's utterly bamboozling. Remnants of the fallen dynasty actually used the male lead's 9 children as leverage, forced him to take sterilization poison, and made him seduce the female lead to assassinate her. While still suffering from amnesia, the male lead was sent as a substitute to the female lead's mansion, TSK, and she actually enjoyed his company. She's living the high life now. This is making me salty. Why does she get to have it so good? Ching ching tilde received. I'll arrange it right away. Thus, the male lead regained his memories, his mother's wrongful accusations were cleared, and the old emperor began mourning his deceased son. Just then, his 2 remaining sons also died in the struggle for the throne. It was the grand princess's doing. The old emperor, suddenly bereft of heirs, was so grief-stricken that he vomited blood and fell gravely ill. Thus, the grand princess once again led troops to exterminate remnants of the former dynasty and brought back 9 imperial grandsons. The male lead also conveniently staged his resurrection at just the right moment. The old emperor miraculously recovered, but soon, the old emperor was on his deathbed again, because his son and 9 imperial grandsons had all been poisoned with infertility drugs, the incurable kind. Amidst overwhelming grief and fleeting joy followed by deeper sorrow, the old emperor was truly about to die. This time, yet unwilling to accept fate, he still wanted to pass the throne to the male lead, so the GUI planted inside the male lead finally found its purpose. The male lead was about to die. The female lead, heartbroken, told him she was pregnant with their children, triplets. Well, she didn't know the male lead had been rendered sterile. The male lead was furious to death, but the female lead's child was indeed his, perhaps due to the protagonist's halo effect. The triplets from the original plot still arrived, And none of them were any good. One indulged in wine pools and meat forests with a penchant for young boys, another murdered to refine elixirs and fashioned skulls into cups, while yet another was willful and capricious, slicing open bellies to determine gender. These were all side stories I learned from bullet comments, though the book had romanticized such tendencies considerably. But no matter how much it's beautified, readers aren't fools. The Grand Princess assumed regency, the Grand Princess ascended the throne, the female lead lost all privileges and was confined in the cold palace, barely clinging to life. She barely managed to give birth to triplets, leaving her with numerous health issues, haggard and aged beyond recognition. Her days of suffering were far from over. I've already decided not to kill the female lead. The barrage comment said that if the female lead and her 3 kids were to die, they'd probably disappear too. They can't bear to part with me, and I can't bear to part with them either. Since that's the case, let's take our time grinding it out. I have my own life too. As for these enemies, as long as I know they're living miserably and can occasionally make things harder for them, that's enough. Just to be safe, let's make sure those 3 little ones can't reproduce. Otherwise, Her Highness the Princess, no, His Majesty the Emperor might have something to say about it. Speaking of which, why hasn't Jian Yi managed to win over his Empress Mother yet? If this keeps up, I might just lose interest altogether. No wonder they say you shouldn't speak of someone. Just as I was thinking of him, here he comes. Sister Qing, I've come to marry you. The young man was full of vigor, dressed in fiery red robes. With his father struggling to catch up behind him, the old man stood with one hand on his hip, covering his forehead, looking utterly exasperated. Jian Yi was practically bouncing with excitement. Sister Qing, Her Majesty has already decided to appoint eldest sister as crown princess. As for me, she told me to get lost. Get lost just means she agrees, doesn't it? Sister Qing, I can finally be with you openly now, no more sneaking around behind everyone's backs. I covered his blabbermouth with my hand, but it was already too late. A prickling sensation crept up his back. Shi Zhengqing's fan waving grew increasingly forceful. How many more lovers have you kept outside, madam? Why not bring them all back to the manor? That'll save those younger brothers from serving you without any proper status. How pitiful. Nisang bent at the waist and leaned his entire body into my embrace. Darling, look at me, I'm better looking than them. Just then, a youth dressed in Miao ethnic attire, his face veiled with white silk, appeared with a sudden swish. Grabbing Nisang by the arm through his clothes, she flung him far away. Get off, you're crushing my baby. The moment those words were spoken, silence fell all around. The barrage of comments exploded into exclamation marks. You're pregnant. When did you get pregnant behind our backs? How the hell does he know the baby is his? I thought it would be that old fox Shi Zhengqing first, but who would have guessed? Turns out the one kept outside is the real deal. Come on, Jian Yi is about to cry. Have some sympathy, will you? Not like me, I'm already laughing at him. Ha ha ha. TSK, how are we supposed to get by from now on? I touched my still flat belly, nestled against Shi Zhengqing's chest, and let out a long sigh, yet the corners of my mouth stubbornly curled upward against my will. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.